Welcome to Glisso English. Real life stories.
Imagine waking up, making your coffee, and casually checking your phone. But instead of the usual notifications, you see a storm. Your phone is buzzing out of control. Yesterday, you posted a blunt, controversial opinion online, just blowing off steam after a bad day. But today, the digital domino effect has started. You watch your follower count plummet in real time. You get kicked out of the group chat. And worst of all, your closest real-life friends are unfriending you, one by one. The damage is done, and deleting the post won't save you because screenshots are forever. In today's story, The Deleted Comment, we follow Leo as a single impulse click ruins his real-world relationships, and he learns the hard way what happens when the internet follows you home. While we watch this modern drama unfold, we're also going to look at some incredibly useful English phrasal verbs, idioms, and expressions for handling panic, confrontation, and making amends. If you're ready to improve your English through a story that happens in real life every single day, let's get started.
Leo sat at his desk, the harsh glow of his laptop screen reflecting in his tired eyes. It had been an incredibly long, exhausting day at work, and his patience was completely gone. To blow off steam, he decided to log on to his favorite social media platform, looking for a quick distraction. Instead of finding funny videos, he found a massive, heated debate trending right at the top of his feed. It was a highly sensitive local issue that everyone in his city seemed to have an opinion on. As Leo scrolled through the endless arguments, he felt a sudden, sharp spike of irritation. People are being completely ridiculous and closed-minded, he thought to himself. Without taking a moment to think it through, he leaned forward and typed out a blunt, highly controversial comment. He did not stop to consider how his aggressive words might sound to his friends or colleagues. He was tired, he was annoyed, and he just wanted to vent his frustration to the world. With a sharp, decisive tap on his mouse, he hit post and watched his message upload. For a brief second, he stared at his words sitting on the public screen. A tiny, quiet voice in the back of his head told him to delete it immediately. However, he shrugged the feeling off, closed his laptop, and walked away. He went straight to bed, completely unaware of the massive digital storm he had just unlocked for the morning. The morning sun streamed through the window, but Leo was already awake, sitting on the edge of his bed. He reached over to his nightstand, picked up his phone, and casually unlocked the screen to check his notifications. Instead of the usual handful of likes and mundane updates, his screen was absolutely covered in bright red alerts. The notification icon was glowing with an unusually high number, counting into the hundreds. At first, a strange, brief spike of excitement rushed through him, thinking a post had finally gone viral. However, that excitement instantly vanished the moment he opened the social media application. His heart did a sudden, violent flip in his chest as he read the first few visible comments. "What is wrong with you?" one user wrote, while another called him completely blind to reality. The digital storm he had blindly unlocked the night before was now swirling violently across his entire profile. Dozens of people, many of whom he had never even met, were actively attacking his character and his intelligence. He felt a cold sweat break out across his forehead as he scrolled through the endless wave of hostility. Even worse, he began to notice familiar names and profile pictures mixed into the angry crowd. Neighbors, old school acquaintances, and local business owners were all leaving furious responses under his blunt statement.
The safe, quiet bubble of his morning was completely shattered by the overwhelming noise of online outrage. He stared blankly at the screen, realization slowly setting in that this morning was about to change everything.
Leo stared intensely at his phone, his thumb trembling slightly as he continued to scroll through the heated arguments. Suddenly, his eyes locked onto a profile picture that made his stomach drop completely. It was a comment from Marcus, his absolute best friend since their early college days. They had shared apartments, celebrated birthdays, and helped each other through every major life event for nearly a decade. Leo had assumed Marcus would either ignore the post or text him privately to talk about it. Instead, Marcus had left a highly public, scathing response directly underneath the controversial statement. "I honestly cannot believe you wrote this, Leo," the comment read for the entire world to see. "This is incredibly disappointing, and it shows who you truly are when you think nobody is watching." The words felt like a physical blow to Leo's chest, leaving him completely breathless in the quiet bedroom. Hoping it was just a bad joke, Leo quickly tapped on Marcus's profile picture to send him a direct message. The profile page loaded slowly, and Leo's heart sank when he looked at the top right corner of the screen. Where the familiar Message tab usually sat, there was now a bright blue button that simply said, "Add Friend." Marcus had not just disagreed with him, he had completely removed him from his digital life without hesitation. The very first bridge had burned to the ground, and it was a friendship he valued above almost everyone else. Leo sat in total silence, staring at the screen as the harsh reality of real-time rejection began to sink in. A heavy panic set in, making Leo's chest feel incredibly tight as he stared at the screen. He watched the follower count at the top of his profile actively drop, the numbers ticking downward like a countdown. It felt like a real-time measurement of his social worth disappearing into thin air with every passing second. Suddenly, his phone buzzed violently with an incoming text message from his close group of local friends. He opened the chat and saw a message from another close friend. "Dude, why on earth did you post that?" Before Leo could even type out a defensive reply to explain himself, the screen flashed a strange message. "You have been removed from this group conversation," the bold notification read, locking him out completely. He tried to tap the text box, but it was grayed out, cutting him off from the people he hung out with every weekend. The digital domino effect was moving far faster than he ever could have anticipated or prepared for. It was not just strangers online anymore. His entire real-world social structure was actively collapsing before his eyes. Every time he refreshed his notification feed, another familiar name vanished from his friend list. He could almost feel the invisible walls closing in around him inside his quiet, lonely apartment. The people who knew him best were actively choosing to disconnect, leaving him entirely isolated. He put his phone face down on the bed, but he could still hear it buzzing against the wood, delivering more bad news.
Leo's phone continued to vibrate against the wood of his bed, sounding louder and more aggressive with each alert. His hand shook as he picked it up again, his thumb hovering directly over the delete post button. He entered a fierce, dizzying internal debate that made his head spin and his stomach twist into painful knots. If he deleted the comment now, would he look like a total coward who could not stand by his own words? But if he left it up, would he have any friends, colleagues, or professional connections left by the end of the day? He swallowed hard, closed his eyes for a brief second, and finally tapped the confirmation button to delete the post. The controversial statement vanished from his profile, but the crushing weight in his chest did not lift at all. Deep down, Leo knew that in the digital world, the concept of a true deletion was completely an illusion. He opened his direct messages and saw a message from a casual acquaintance containing a crisp screenshot of his exact words. "People are already sharing this in local group chats, Leo," the warning text read. "You were too slow." The absolute worst truth of the modern internet era was staring him directly in the face. Screenshots are forever. He had taken the words down from his public page, but they were already living on dozens of other devices. The digital footprint was permanent, and the severe damage to his reputation was already entirely done. He dressed for work in a complete daze, knowing he would soon have to face the real-world consequences of his actions. Leo walked slowly down the hallway of his office building, his boots feeling heavy against the linoleum floor. It was finally lunchtime, and the stress of the morning had left him feeling completely drained and hungry. As he approached the glass doors of the employee break room, he could hear the familiar sound of loud laughter inside. His coworkers, who also happened to be his social media connections, were gathered around the large central table. The very moment Leo pushed the door open and stepped into the room, the laughter stopped instantly. The lively atmosphere vanished, replaced by an incredibly heavy, suffocating silence that filled the entire space. Nobody looked up to greet him, and his supervisor suddenly found his chicken salad deeply fascinating. Two colleagues from marketing immediately lowered their eyes, staring intently at their phones without making a sound. Leo walked over to the microwave, his heart pounding loudly against his ribs in the quiet room. He could feel the weight of their judgment burning into his back, though nobody would look him in the eye. It was completely clear that the screenshot of his deleted comment had already made its way through the office. The online outrage had officially crossed over into his physical reality, turning his workplace into a hostile environment. He stood there waiting for his food, realizing that the cold shoulder from his peers was worse than any angry online comment. Without eating a single bite, Leo took his lunch container, turned around, and walked back out into the lonely hallway.
Leo could not endure the suffocating isolation for another single minute of the workday. He walked out to the parking lot and spotted Sarah, a coworker and friend who had unfriended him that morning. She was walking toward her car, her keys already in her hand, looking eager to leave the office behind. "Sarah, please wait," Leo called out, his voice cracking slightly under the pressure of the tense day. She stopped, turning around slowly, with her arms tightly crossed over her chest and a cold expression on her face. "I just want to explain," Leo said quickly, stepping closer. "That post last night really wasn't that deep." He shook his head, trying to minimize the situation. "People are taking my words completely out of context." Sarah looked at him, her eyes sharp and entirely unimpressed by his defensive explanation. "You think this is just about context, Leo?" she asked, her voice quiet but incredibly firm. "Your words actually hurt real people, including people who sit just a few desks away from you every single day." She stepped closer, giving him a harsh, deeply honest reality check that he was completely unprepared to hear. "You can't just throw toxic thoughts into the world and expect everyone to pretend you are still a safe person." Leo opened his mouth to argue, but the words died in his throat as he saw the genuine disappointment in her eyes. Sarah turned around, opened her car door, and drove away, leaving him standing entirely alone in the empty parking lot. Sitting alone in his dark apartment, Leo stared blankly at the wall as his phone buzzed in his hand. He hesitated before flipping it over, bracing himself for another wave of rejection from his real-world community. Instead,
When he unlocked the screen, he found a completely different kind of notification waiting for him. A group of online strangers had discovered his deleted comment through the screenshots and were now flooding his profile. Unlike his friends, these people were not angry with him, they were actively praising his controversial words. "Finally, someone has the guts to speak the absolute truth," one user wrote, adding a thumbs-up emoji. Another stranger left a message welcoming Leo to their online community, a group known for holding extreme, aggressive views. For a brief, desperate second, Leo felt a strange sense of relief and validation washing over him. He was so starved for human connection after a day of total isolation that any positive attention felt good. However, as he began to scroll through their profiles, a deep, sickening dread settled into his stomach. Their pages were filled with toxic arguments, conspiracy theories, and intense hatred for anyone who disagreed with them. He realized he was standing at the edge of a dangerous echo chamber that was trying to pull him in. They didn't actually care about him as a person, they just wanted to use his anger to feed their own. Leo closed the app in terror, realizing that losing his real friends was making him vulnerable to a much darker world.
The empty praise from those online strangers left Leo feeling more isolated than he had ever felt in his life. He finally realized that seeking validation from a computer screen was a completely hollow and dangerous game. If he wanted to save his real life, he needed to stop hiding behind excuses and take immediate responsibility. He knew a public apology post on social media would look fake and only invite more angry commentary. Instead, Leo opened a blank document on his laptop and began to type a personal, direct message to Marcus. He did not try to explain away his actions, and he did not blame a stressful day at work for his behavior. He simply owned up to his insensitivity, admitting that his blunt words had been incredibly thoughtless and hurtful. "I was wrong, Marcus," Leo typed, his eyes burning as he looked at the honest words on his screen. "I valued being loud over being a good friend, and I am deeply sorry for the disappointment I caused you." He swallowed his pride completely, asking for nothing in return and expecting no immediate forgiveness from his friend. He just wanted Marcus to know that he finally understood the real-world weight of his digital actions. With a deep breath, Leo hit the send button, sending the long message directly into the quiet digital void. He closed his laptop gently, feeling a strange, calm sense of relief now that the truth was finally out. For the first time in 24 hours, his heart stopped racing, and he was ready to accept whatever came next.
Two weeks had passed since Leo sent the message, and his phone had remained completely quiet the entire time. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, a simple text message finally flashed on his screen from Marcus, reading, "Let's grab a coffee." An hour later, Leo was sitting by the window of a small local cafe, nervously gripping a warm paper cup. The bell above the door jingled, and Marcus walked in, shaking the rain off his jacket before sitting down. The initial conversation was incredibly awkward, and the comfortable warmth of their old friendship was noticeably missing. Marcus did not smile or offer a handshake, keeping his distance as he looked at Leo across the small table. "Your apology meant a lot, Leo," Marcus said quietly, taking a slow sip from his coffee cup. "I understand that honesty takes time to rebuild, and I can't just pretend that nothing happened between us." Leo nodded sincerely, completely accepting the boundaries his best friend was putting in place.
He understood that turning over a new leaf was a slow process that required consistent, real-world action. After Marcus left, Leo sat alone in the cafe for a long time, looking down at his smartphone. With a steady, deliberate finger, he began deleting all the social media applications from his device. He realized he didn't need the constant noise, the digital validation, or the empty opinions of strangers. He put the phone deep inside his jacket pocket, stood up, and walked out into the fresh afternoon air.
The consequences of Leo's single impulse click had stripped his life down to the basics. He lost his digital popularity, his group chat status, and the easy comfort of his workplace. But he gained something far more valuable, a clear understanding of reality. He learned that the connections we build face-to-face are too fragile to be risked for a fleeting moment of online anger. As he walked home in the quiet afternoon, he knew the road to earning back his friend's trust would be long, but for the first time in a long time, he was fully present to walk it. Thank you so much for watching today's story. Modern life moves incredibly fast, and it is so easy to forget that the words we type into a screen have a massive impact on the real people around us. I hope Leo's journey helped you learn some useful English expressions today, like how to talk about damage control, turning over a new leaf, or giving someone the cold shoulder. Which part of Leo's story did you find the most relatable, and what would you have done if you were in his shoes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't worry, no comments will be deleted here. You can find all the vocabulary of the story down below in the description box. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel for more real-life English learning stories, and I will see you in the next story. Goodbye.